So if my mom had any free time, she would make herself a cup of tea, go outside, sit on her chair, and then she'd start reading her book and have the doggos and a cat scene on her lap.
If my mother had free time, she would do things with me.
Well, play some games with me and go out with me. Play with Millie and Esther. Probably baking, because she does a lot of baking for our lunches. Hang out the washing.
If my mum was a superhero, she would make ice creams with her hands.
Super speed.
To give the tightest and the biggest hugs ever, or invisibility to get away from all the craziness.
What is your favourite thing that Mum makes?
Probably like her cakes or like those sour cookies she makes.
Favourite thing that Mum makes is chicken coops.
What do you think would happen if all the mums were gone?
We wouldn't be born.
Good answer. Josie, do you know?
You wouldn't be born. All the children at my house would cry over me.
If all the mums in the world disappeared, it would be a disaster. There would be like a bunch of kids that needed help, and then soon when they turn into a mom, then they basically disappear. So it's complicated.
How do you know that Mummy loves you?
Because my sisters.
I know my mum loves me because she made food for me, she gave birth to me, she loves me, she always shows that she loves me.
She hugs and kisses off. Because we love her all the time.
My mum always says to me that I am a princess.
I need to brush my teeth and clean up our rooms. Get ready for school. Eat.
Bobby, if you're bored, go do a job. And also, Bobby, get out of bed. We're gonna miss the bus. And also that she loves me so much. So if my mom had any free time.
How funny. They're pretty cute. You know what? It's so great to see so many mums here today. And as women, God has created all of you to be a mother in some shape or form, whether you have children or not. We're created to love and care and nurture and help those around us. So, if you don't know me, my name's Sage, and I'm one of the pastor's wives here. I just did that for you, Hannah. Today I'm going to share about the importance of vulnerability, honesty, and humility, and how it affects our relationships, both physical and spiritual. So, who knows there are a lot of different mums. Social media has named and created memes, or we have also, about all these different mums. There's the fitness mum, the hot mess mum with the messy buns, the social, essential oils mums, the business mums, the helicopter mums, and the you'll be fine mums. The list goes on. We have labelled and put so many different categories by media and ourselves, it's ridiculous. And yet we can be made to feel like we need to be performing and succeeding in every area, which is unrealistic, but we still try. But there is one type of mum that I believe we've all experienced at some point in our lives. And now this could be your mum or your grandma or you yourself. And that would be the crazy cleaning mode mum. Everybody laughs because they know what it's like. It's horrible. That's the crazy cleaning mode. And she is trying in a very short amount of time to make her house look like a magazine so the guests are impressed when they come over. And she's been at work all week, long hours, She's on the warpath. You know, she's gone full turbo. And as Rob would say it, the ponytail is swinging. You know, when you yeah, that's what he says to me when I get like that. He's like, oh, the ponytail's swinging. It means you're getting going and it's got its own rhythm there. So in the process of this crazy cleaning mode, the focus becomes about stuff. Something that hasn't been a problem or even on our radar lately in a very short time frame becomes an essential focus. Like the ceiling fan blades, they have dust on them. Yeah, we better get to that just in case, you know, the guests look up. We vacuum like maniacs, we start cleaning windows, stuff like that. And your family is not to be seen. They are too scared to help, they don't want to get in your way. Yeah. So we spend all our energy trying to make everything look perfect, but relationships suffer imperfectionism. And now I'd say with certainty that the motive behind this 90% of the time would be a selfish one. Cleaning mode is a selfish one. We can disguise it and justify it as much as we like. I've done it when God has spoken to me about it. And I've said, oh no, this is for their comfort. We don't want our guests uncomfortable. We want them to be in a nice space. And it has nothing to do with me. But when I really thought about it and dug deep about my motives behind it, it was a selfish one. We do all these things because we don't want people to think or find out certain things about us. You know, they're going to think we're absolutely filthy if there's dust on the ceiling fans, you know. They're going to think I'm a bad mum if my kids' beds aren't made. They're going to think I'm a bad mum if I don't have home-baked goods for our kids daily, you know. So we think and act like this. Why do we do that? Unrealistic expectations, anxiety. We're creating a whirlwind of anxiety when we do this. Fear of rejection. We don't want people to see or judge us. We're fearful of what others think. So we hide and we start to build walls so that they can't see us. We create a facade. The definition of a facade is a deceptive outward appearance. It's not real. It's not real at all. We're being deceptive to ourselves, to God and others by acting like we have it all together. It's based on self, and that is not biblical love or hospitality. As Christians, we should be known for our loving hospitality. We're meant to be hospitable. That is, if someone comes to the door, they are welcome whether the dishes are done or not, whether there's laundry in the living room getting folded at the time or not. There is a difference between hospitality and entertainment. When we're entertaining guests, and hospitality is completely different. Hospitality says, I see you, whilst entertaining is more about, look at me. Look what I've created. A hospitable person is someone who welcomes, comforts, and cares for others no matter what. They're humble and vulnerable and honest. People that allow you into their family space as it is, with real life daily mess and all, no facade. What does that do for us? It makes us feel like family, like we're trusted to be there. It makes us feel like we're important to them, that we don't have to be brushed off because they're not ready to be with us because they're trying to get their stuff together. Where it's not a focus on stuff, it's a focus on the person. They value relationship above the mess. They value the people above the stuff. They say that you are more important to me. You are more important than the setting. You are more important than the stuff. You need to be vulnerable and humble and let people see you. They aren't as mean as you think. People aren't as mean as we think. And they will not judge you as hard as you judge yourself. We need to give people a chance to love all of you, not just the bits that we want them to see. So I'd like you to ask yourself, what walls have you been building that need to be broken? And what facade do you hide behind when you're uncomfortable and exposed? We think these walls are protecting us, but they're actually hindering our growth spiritually and physically. So how can we identify these walls? I don't know. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. I haven't used one of these before, so it's a bit different. How can we identify these walls? We can pray and ask God to reveal them. That is like a huge thing. Psalm 139, verse 23 and 24. There we go. I was a bit behind. It says, explore me, O God, and know the real me. So we're asking him to look in. Dig deeply, discover who I am. Put me to the test. Watch how I handle the strain. Examine me to see if there is an evil bone in me and guide me down your path forever. So we're asking him to dig deep in us and then to guide us out of that. Another thing is to notice patterns in our behaviour when we get in stress situations. What is our go-to reaction? Do we come out with anger? Do we withdraw? Do we turn to perfectionism and try and get everything in place and that? And if you don't know, a good suggestion is to ask those people around you, because I'm pretty sure they could tell you as well. So how can we break down these walls to create more intimate relationships? Humility. Humility is the key. Humility breaks down walls of insecurity in relationships and it builds connection. Because walls will crumble when we're humble. We need humility before God and people. We need to share our struggles. Community will gather and stand in prayer and love and care for you. This is what church is. It's a group of people who love and follow Jesus and care for one another. Being humble and vulnerable allows others to do the same, and it produces connection and builds relationship. When we open our lives and say, come as you are, and here I am for you, we're actually showing Jesus to others. And that's exactly what he did for us. It inspires others to do the same. It's hard, it's really hard, and it's inconvenient, and it makes us feel weird and exposed. It exposes the good and the bad in us. And it takes bravery, but most of all, it takes the Holy Spirit and Jesus. So let's see what does the Bible say about hospitality and humility. So Ephesians 4:2 says, always be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. So making allowance for each other's faults, that's our mess, that's our stuff. And we need to do that for others and compliment them on that as well. 1 Peter 4:8-9 says, above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling. This can be really hard for, I'm a real introvert and I'm a homebody. I'm happy to just be at home on my own. But I purposely make the effort to open my home and let people in for that reason, not just for me, but for them as well. They need it too. So Romans 12:13 says, when God's people are in need, be ready to help them. Always be eager to practice hospitality. I'm not always eager, and that is something that I have to continually pray to God about with that. Philippians 2:3 says, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. It's really hard. It's extremely hard at times to be selfless and put others' needs before our own desires and our own insecurities. It's talking about that side of it as well. It's not just putting aside the things that we want, but it's putting aside our insecurities as well. This is part of what Jesus means when he says, lay down your life for a friend. It's putting our own desires and our own insecurities aside. We need him for that. We absolutely need him for that. This was and still is a struggle for me, to be selfless at times. I think it's a continual growth thing that I need. I invite God into to point things out for me. So it's something that I seek him on constantly. I pray for a heart of compassion towards others, how to listen better and talk less, be humble before God and ask him to reveal any areas I'm hiding from him, any walls that I've put up, and how to let others in my life more. Because walls crumble when we're humble, and humility builds community. I struggled with this more when I was younger and had young kids. I didn't understand the importance of vulnerability and being humble in front of people. I would not like having people over if I didn't already know and was able to prepare first. And one day years ago, a lady from church, she sent me a text and asked if she could come around for a cuppa. And nowadays, people don't just pop in like they did in the olden days. They will text and call first, which means you can decide to do a cover-up mission of your home, or you can make an excuse and say no if you don't want anybody over. And now this one day, it was mid-morning. I just got Bobby to bed. She was a baby, and the other two were outside playing, and I was in the middle of cooking. So I had cooking stuff everywhere and that. So I get a text that says, hey, can I come over 5-10 minutes for a cuppa and a chat? And I looked around the room, and I was like, oh, because there's toys in the lounge room, the girls' breakfast stuff, like, because I just fed them and sent them outside. It was still on the table, and I had cooking stuff all on my bench, and there were still dishes in the sink. And I really, really wanted to say no. I didn't want someone to see my mess. But I knew this friend was having a hard time, and I felt God prompting me to just say yes. So I said, sure, come over whenever. I didn't ask for more time so that I could clean. I didn't make an excuse and say I'm too busy. I thought, this is life at the moment with kids. You know, she needs to come over and see me, and this is how it is, so I'm just going to say yes. So that's what I did. So she came over. We had a cuppa and chatted at the bench whilst I finished cooking, and then something happened that I wasn't expecting. I saw her look around the room, and I was like, oh, and I'm thinking, oh no, she's seen it all now, you know, and my brain starts cooking up all these negative thoughts of what I think that she's thinking, and I start having these internal reactions. But then what happened was she thanked me for not cleaning up before she came. And my stomach did a somersault because I felt so exposed at that moment. I didn't know what to say, like, you're welcome. Like, it feels weird to say. Then I realised she was complimenting my vulnerability, and her walls started to crumble. She then explained to me that she had been struggling mentally and felt she was failing. This has not made me emotional the whole time writing this, but when I was practicing this upstairs and I reread this story, I felt all the emotions of that day come back, and I was like, help me not show these emotions, but I'm doing a message on vulnerability, so I'm up here crying rereading this. She explained to me how she'd really been struggling mentally and felt like she was failing. And going to someone's house that felt lived in and hadn't been completely spruced up was comforting. She said it made her feel welcome and trusted to be there and be in my space. Miley, could you pass me that tissue, please? She said it made her feel normal and comfortable and realised that I was normal also. And that this is life sometimes. Sorry. It gets messy, but it's still a blessing. Some of her walls started coming down, and she shared more of where she was at, and we prayed together. The power of being humble creates community, and others' walls can crumble when you're humble. Because relationship trumps environment and stuff every time. It's worth so much more than a clean house. So we need to show up and show ourselves. Be honest. Don't show a perception of yourself that you want others to think. We need to be authentic. Because authenticity creates intimacy. Be real and inspire others to love others as Jesus did. Love every part of life, the days that are messy and the tidy ones. It's uncomfortable, but our comfort shouldn't be our top priority. It takes courage to be vulnerable and humble, and we need to choose courage over comfort. If we're acting in a way that says, I only have people in my life when everything is spotless, guess what? When, not if, But when life gets messy and when life gets busy, which is a lot of the time, we create a habit cycle and we block people out. And when we do this in our physical lives, it starts to happen in our spiritual lives with Jesus also. We start trying to fix everything ourselves before we come to the Lord, and we go in full crazy cleaning mode. And Jesus is just sitting there watching, waiting to be welcomed in. We need to show hospitality in our spiritual lives also. We're not entertaining Jesus. We're building friendship with him, and that requires vulnerability and being humble. We don't need to be showing him how hard we've been trying, because he knows. He knows. But he should be our first point of reference. We don't need to clean house first to invite him in. That is the good news of the gospel. He gave himself for us so that we can come to him freely. So don't hide from him. Don't hide from him. Psalm 139, verse 23 to 24 says, "Explore me, O God, and know the real me. Dig deeply, discover who I am. Put me to the test. Watch how I handle the strain. Examine me to see if there is any evil bone in me, and guide me down your path forever." Be open and vulnerable, humble and honest with God. I can't remember who said it, but I heard this amazing quote from someone, and it said, "Satan dines on what we withhold from the Lord." He dines on what we withhold from the Lord. We're literally providing sustenance for him and feeding him, and he uses that against us. But God, on the other hand, when we're humble before him, when we come before him as we are and give all ourselves to him, he prepares a feast for us in the presence of our enemies. We get to dine on the beautiful things of the Spirit that sustain us, like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So how do we start? It's going to be hard, because being humble is completely countercultural to what our world is like today. The opposite of humility is self-elevation, and we keep trying to prop ourselves up. Being humble is about thinking of ourselves less. Culture now is completely selfish, and the more they love themselves, the more lonely they get. It doesn't work. Love is not about you, it's about others. And to actually practice love, it requires more than one person. Self-love is not love. So it starts with honesty with God and family and friends. Follow Jesus' example and read the Gospels. Seek the Scriptures. Read about how humble Jesus was. I encourage you to read Matthew 26 from about verse 36, I think it is, and how vulnerable he was. This is when he's in the Garden of Gethsemane. Yeah. And he's praying and crying out to God, and he goes to his friends and he's like, "Please just pray with me." Like he was struggling so bad. He was suicidal at that point. He didn't want to live. Like it was such a big strain, and he was so honest with them in that place. Humble honesty is a practiced thing. So start small. Gradually push the boundaries. As you start, fear will come in and you'll want to pull up that wall again, but you need to keep chipping away at it. Start with your spouse if you have one. If you aren't being vulnerable and humble and honest with your spouse, I'm telling you now that your relationship will suffer from it. The next one is to pray and pray and pray. Spending time in prayer. Pray over your home, for the people that come through the door, for the conversations that you'll have, for your heart. Ask God to reveal anything that you may be holding back from him, any selfish motives, any walls that you've built. I want to leave you with some reflection questions. So what do you hide that you should choose to be vulnerable about instead? Do you let God and family and friends know how you're feeling? Are you authentic? Who could you be closer to if you were honest? Who in your circle could you be closer to if you shared honesty with them? And remember that it opens doors for others to do the same when you do that. Practice being fully vulnerable in your prayer life. Don't just tell him your basic wants and basic needs. Share with him how you're feeling. Prayer can become a bit of a tick box thing sometimes, where we're reciting the same thing over and over, but make it a daily habit, like a conversation. That should be what our prayer life is. And the biggest thing is to remember that our walls crumble when we're humble. We need to stay humble. So be humble, be honest, be vulnerable. Authenticity creates intimacy, and you will build lasting, intimate relationships, both with your family, your friends, and most importantly, with God. Okay, let's pray. Jesus, I thank you today for all these people coming in here, God. I just pray that you can teach us to be authentic, teach us how to be vulnerable, God. I just pray that we can continue coming to your feet humbly, God, putting others first, Jesus. And I just pray that we can continue on this journey with you, Jesus. Amen. Thank you. Now to turn it off.
How good is that?